very good day to you. Again, thank you for joining us on Family Affairs Monday. This is Dr. Justice Maruisa, and we are continuing with our series on affairs in marriage. We are the College of Marriage, Parenting and Family Affairs, and our desire is to make people enjoy their family relationships. And we run quite a number of programs, and Family Affairs Mondays is one such program which we just air for the sake of covering a number of things that are of interest to people. Today we are looking at part 3 of the affairs in marriage, and what we are looking at is the how of the affair. We mentioned earlier on that in the previous series that there are actually 5 issues which people need to deal with if they are to handle affairs. We mentioned that it's important for us to talk about the what of infidelity, then look at the why of infidelity, then also discuss the how of infidelity, then the pain of infidelity, and finally the change factors of infidelity. When we looked at the what of infidelity, we were looking at what is an affair and what are the causes for an affair. And we mentioned that an affair is basically a search for fulfillment outside the marriage by improper association with someone or something in an effort to escape from the reality of responsibility and commitment in marriage. In general, marriage requires a lot of commitment. And what causes affairs, we mentioned 10 things, but there can be many things. And some of the things that we mentioned, distance between spouses, if they are working in different places. In general, you will notice that there can be an affair that can take place. We also mentioned lack of boundaries, things to do with lust, revenge, cheating, and eventually what we have noticed is the real cause is the choice for someone to be unfaithful. Last week, in part 2, we looked at the why of the affair, and we mentioned that it is very important for people to deal with this question of the why of the affair. Because when that is done, it actually helps the cheated to try to make sense of the cheating, and it also helps them to answer a number of questions that are related to the why question. And what we mentioned, however, is that unfortunately no answer is satisfactory, as it will not be able, whatever answer is given will not be able to remove the sting of the affair. For the one who is cheating, the why question is also very important for them to answer. We are assuming here that they do want to stop the affair. It helps the infidel process the reasons behind their cheating, and this process must be actually deliberate and thorough as we talk about the why of the affair. And it also helps the infidel see that basically no answer is satisfactory, and they just must make a decision to stop. So today we are looking at the how of the affair, which is part 3 in this series. And so the how of the affair is very important because if we are to resolve infidelity, a couple needs to deal with this very important question. And if it is not addressed, reality is it may be difficult to have a place where the cheated may heal. So the infidel and the cheated need to wrestle with this question. Our assumption here is that the one who has cheated would want to stop the affairs. So why is the how of the infidelity important to the cheated? The issue is this question will help in plugging loopholes that fed the affair. It will reveal the extent of the betrayal. It will indicate the nature of involvement, of the two who were cheating. It will also help the cheated deal with the innate sense of curiosity. In general, when somebody is being cheated, they are very curious to know a lot of details there. And then it reveals weaknesses in the relationship between the couple. And also, most importantly, is it might reveal habits that may have promoted the affair. To the infidel, why is the how question important? The issue is this. Our assumption again is that the infidel would want to end the relationships, would want to end the affairs. And so the how question will help the infidel plug loopholes that led to the affair or that fed the affair. It will help the infidel deal with personal issues that made him vulnerable to the affair, and it will help him assure their spouse that they want to open up and deal with these issues, because sin thrives in secrecy. It's one of the things that we have seen. And finally, it helps in rebuilding trust. So the how of infidelity is also important to the infidel. The thing is this: we need to ask the question, are all details, as we're discussing the how of the affair, are all details important? Are all details necessary? The thing that has been discovered is it has been seen that some details may not be necessary while others are. And so giving all details has been discovered to become psychologically damaging to the betrayed spouse. And some detail may cause pain and suffering. I know of somebody who insisted that the infidel tells them the whole truth, and after that had been done, they went further and then started to say to the one who had cheated, "You are very insensitive for telling me this. Do you know that this would actually hurt me even more? You should not just have said this, even if I had asked you." So some details are necessary, some details are not necessary. So let's look at the necessary details. There are quite a number. I've just put 7 here as things that could be necessary in trying to handle the how of the affair. Number 1, how the affair started is important. So the betrayed really is in general curious about how the affair started. There are so many questions regarding how this was going on, and so the infidel may assist the betrayed to just deal with their curiosity by talking about how this affair started, and the infidel in the process may be assisted in making precautions to avoid future affairs. So the how the affair started is important. Again, necessary detail could be where the two used to meet, and again this discussion will help to deal with the curiosity that the cheated would have. There is a lot of curiosity there, so when this is discussed, it may help also the infidel not to go to the place where the affair was taking place. So some discussion on where the two used to meet would assist. It has been discovered it does help the one who has been cheated. Number 3, what could also be necessary is the environmental context of the affair. For example, here we look at whether the affair was with someone from work, from church, from business, or from another platform, and this discussion will help to perhaps for the couple to make decisions in terms of whether there is need to change job, to change churches or business, you name it, in order for them to safeguard their relationship and work on their relationship as a couple. So the environmental context of the affair is important. Another thing that would also be important is how often the two used to meet. Some discussion on this would help. This deals with checking the depth of the relationship and the amount of work needed in fixing it. Just checking the investment in terms of time here that the infidel was putting in the relationship. It really helps in terms of dealing with the work that needs to be done to ensure that the emotional involvement is dealt with. Because one-night stands are not as emotionally involving as long-term relationships. So a discussion on how often the two used to meet is also important. Certain details, number 5, certain details of the resources used in the affair important. This is generally a tricky one. So the spouse is also curious about details here. So some details of this are important. So one can indicate if money was used to sustain the affair or not. It's just important to say, yeah, I used the money, maybe without necessarily going into too much detail, but certain details of the resources used can be important. Number 6, if the affair produced a child, that is also something that is very important for a discussion. It helps really to deal with the potential need to look after the child and handle the communication with the mother of the child moving forward. So discussion must be made around that, whether there is now a child out of the affair. And finally, certain details of the sex should also be discussed. Of the sexual, affair must be discussed. For example, whether protection was used or not would be important because of potential health issues. So these can be necessary details to be discussed. But there are some details which are unnecessary, and again, I'll probably mention 6 or so things that we have discovered in working with people may be unnecessary. Number 1 is the exact details of the sexual affair. This is very tricky to give the details because it can be psychologically damaging. It has been discovered to ask for too much detail, like the number of times one had sex, the sex positions, whether the person was better than the spouse in bed, etc. Again, sometimes there is some curiosity from the cheated to want to ask these details, but these details really are not important and they can be damaging to the spouse. Number 2, the details of the resources used. Again, exact details of resources in terms of the amounts, to the last cent may not be necessary because this may also be damaging to the relationship. Number 3, the details of the person involved. Again, these are not necessary details in terms of appearance, phone number, where she stays. These details may not be necessary. Whilst maybe it may be necessary to just know in general who the person was, or which church they go to, and things like work they work at, and things like that. But to know the exact details of the person may have long-lasting negative effect on the cheated. Number 4, meeting the person, is also one of the things that has been discovered not to really be good to do. It's not necessary to do that. And this may involve, calling the person, inviting them for a discussion, etc., or going to their workplace. This has been discovered to be unnecessary. It's one of the unnecessary things. Yet I know that many people have been cheated. They are keen to want to meet the person and discuss with the person, but in general it has been discovered that is not helpful. Number 5, confronting the person with the intention of humiliating them or asking them to stop the affair. Again, this is something that has been discovered is not necessary, because in general it has been discovered that confronting the person can actually promote the affair. The person may also end up humiliating you. And when everything has been said and done, the responsibility to end the relationship lies with the infidel. So confronting the person who your spouse is cheating with is actually not that helpful. Number 6, meeting the person's spouse. So other people have been tempted to say, let's go and talk to the spouse or call the spouse. So while this may embarrass those that are cheating, this may not accomplish much in terms of solving your own mess as a couple. In many cases, this just complicates in terms of the number of things that you would need to then deal with. You have an extra person to talk to try to handle, and you don't know how they will respond and things like that. So it just complicates things. Finally, let me just end this discussion today by just saying, when everything has been said and done, friends, one thing that is important for us to take note of is affairs are very painful. And if you are cheating, the responsibility is for you to actually stop the affair. Your spouse can, try to assist you to stop the affair, but when everything has been said and done, the responsibility is yours. So let's make a date next week as we'll look at the pain of the affair. May God bless you.